everybody, it's your boy once again, the real Grimmy Tim, coming to you live today from the Digital Assassins. And today we are going to discuss the brand new killer that came out in Dead by Daylight, Legion. Now this killer is being hailed as the weakest killer to come out to date, even weaker than Freddy post-nerf. And a lot of people are kind of disagreeing with that, so I figured it would give us a chance to discuss it. So at this point I'm going to assume everybody's pretty familiar with the new killer. They know his powers, or power, and they know how it works, and they know all the mechanics to it. So I'm not going to go ahead and bore you with those details. What I'm going to do, however, is explain exactly why people are saying Legion is weak. It's because of his power combined with his slow move speed. That's why everybody's saying that Legion is in fact weak. Legion's power has many bad drawbacks, starting with the fact that it cannot down a survivor as long as you're using it. You literally have to hit a survivor without any add-ons or anything like that. You have to hit a survivor 4 times. 4 times with your power in order to down them. Now, that wouldn't be so bad, but here's the thing. Once you hit them 1 time and you apply that deep wound buff or debuff and you hit them again, you immediately go out of Feral Frenzy and you get stunned. So there's no incentive to hit them once you've applied the deep wounds. And deep wounds take so little time and so little effort to actually remove simply by standing still and mending that it's not very effective. So what a lot of people are doing when they play Legion is they hit one survivor with deep wounds and utilize one of the power's actual good effects, which is revealing to you the location of other survivors who do not have deep wounds, and they utilize that to find other survivors and hit them with the deep wound debuff. Now they do this for 2 reasons. One, once a survivor has deep wounds, they have to mend or else they will go down by the time the deep wounds meter runs out. So it is really useful for preventing gen rushing. And a lot of people are also utilizing this power in different ways. Many different ways. They're using slug builds, they're using on-hit builds, because of the fact that you can get so many hits on a survivor. Things like Save the Best for Last, which I'm utilizing in this game. Remember Me, which I am looking forward to getting on my Legion. People are just utilizing different on-hit powers. And some people are having a great deal of success, while others are not. The fact of the matter is, to date, Legion is the worst killer. His slow movement speed combined with a very weak power make him not a valid killer at all. Now, this game I'm playing at rank 10, which you will see once the game is over. And I had a tough time. These are rank 10 survivors, and I'm a rank 1 killer. But I still had a really tough time getting the 4K in this game. That's just the fact of the matter. That's just how weak Legion is. His lunge and range are subpar. His power is next to useless, with a caveat of helping to prevent gen rushing, which can be useful, but at the same time, the fact that the deep wounds meter or the deep wounds debuff, I should say, is so easily dealt with, it just makes it not good. It makes it not viable as far as actually killing a survivor. Yeah, it'll slow the game down quite a bit, but that's about it. Eventually, all those generators will get done, and eventually those survivors will escape. That's just the fact of it. So, at the end of the day, as a killer, the Legion is weak. He is the weakest of all the killers. Now, that's not to say he's not strong against a survivor. Now, the fact of the matter is, all killers are strong. All killers can get a 4K at any rank. We're not talking about killer versus survivors. We're talking about how Legion stacks up as a killer versus the other killers. And a lot of people are going to say, well, his perks this, you put this perk on him, you put that perk on him, you put this add-on, this, and he becomes, and you can get a 4K easy. Well, that's all very true. In fact, you can see in this particular match, I'm using 2 particular add-ons. I can't really remember the name of them at this moment, but I'm using an add-on that makes it take longer in order for a survivor to mend, and I'm using another add-on which reduces the bleed out time of the deep wound meter, so it drains faster. Those two things combined make it so that if I do find a survivor while they're mending, 9 times out of 10 they're going to have to stop and they're going to immediately go down. So yeah, with the proper perks and add-ons, Legion becomes a viable killer at any rank. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about how he stacks up against the other killers. Basically we run into the same problem that we ran into after Hag and Trapper got their buffs. And that's, people are basically saying the changed perks and the changed add-ons, or the current perks and the current add-ons, when utilized with the killer, make them strong. Make them a high tier killer. But the fact of the matter is, that's not true. When you're ranking a killer, you have to do it naked. What I mean by naked is no perks, no add-ons. How would that killer fare with 0 perks and 0 add-ons at rank 1 against real rank 1 survivors? Not boosted survivors, but actual rank 1 survivors. How would that killer perform? And the fact of the matter is, Legion would not perform very well. Without his perks, without his add-ons, just pure naked, I'd give it even at the middle ranks, he could not perform very well. He may get 1 or 2 kills, but he would not perform very well. Now, in the hands of a true rank 1 killer who has time in with Legion and can actually get, catch up to people, get the 4Ks, they have experience with it, they would do well. Okay? But in the hands of your average person, and that's really who the tier list is really all about, in the hands of the average person, Legion is a low rank killer who would struggle to get a 4K even in the middle ranks. So, that being said, at the end of the day, we have to render our verdict that Legion is in fact weak. He is very weak. Weaker so than Freddy. The only thing that Legion really has going over Freddy is that his power doesn't prevent him from actually interacting with survivors. So he can play the hatch game, he can defend totems, things like that. But Freddy, even though he can't do those things, still has killing power. He still has a presence to be feared. So, verdict, at least in my opinion, Legion is the weakest killer. He's super easy to avoid, super easy to 360, and just not viable as a killer for downing and killing survivors. Which is what this game is all about, is downing and killing. So, that's that. Now, the next part of this discussion is going to be his perks. I keep saying his. It's going to be their perks. Because Legion actually is multiple people. So oh my god, my inner country came out there. The best part about Legion's release is the perks that came out with him. His 3 perks are Mad Grit, which basically says that while you're carrying the survivor on your shoulder, your missed attacks have 0 cooldown. So you can swipe and swipe and swipe as many times as you need to. And if you do hit a survivor, or not if, but when you do hit a survivor, the wiggle meter of the survivor you're carrying is paused for 2, 4, and 6 seconds, depending on the tier of the perk that you're utilizing. Basically, this is the anti-hook body blocking perk. Body blocking hooks became a really popular style of playing with survivors because it basically allowed people to wiggle off the shoulders of survivors after they got down. A lot of killers considered it toxic and they wanted a way to counter it. Well, this is what we have: Mad Grit. Basically, it discourages body blocking. There's no other way. There's no other 2 ways of looking about it. If you get hit with Mad Grit, you're not helping the person on the hook. You're actually hurting them. So Mad Grit is definitely an amazing perk, and I can see it fitting into some truly amazing builds. And I can even see it making its way into a basement build. Next up, we have Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden is a really useful perk for those truly immersed survivors. Basically, when a survivor enters a locker, it puts on them the exposed status effect, and it stays on them until they leave the locker, at which point it stays with them for a certain amount of time, depending on the tier of the perk, and it reveals their aura to you for 4 seconds, 6 seconds, and 8 seconds, depending on the tier of the perk. Now, this is incredibly useful because it counters those immersed survivors, those who hide in lockers and they use quick and quiet, or they use dance with me to get away from you. This perk is the anti-immersive perk, and it is very useful. I've used it many times. I don't think I actually got to use it in the game that you're watching right now, but it is incredibly useful for those survivors who like to go hide in lockers. Last, we have what I think is probably the most useful perk in his arsenal, which is the anti-gen rushing perk. Now, when Legion first came out and I heard about Mad Grit, I was really excited because I got so tired of getting blocked at the hook and having to knock people down, you know, only to have the next survivor come in and body block and I'd have to turn, find them, hit them. It got really annoying. So once I learned about Mad Grit, I was super happy. And then Iron Maiden, I mean, counter to immersive survivors, counter to those survivors who love to hide in lockers. I was even more excited. Now, but his last perk, oh god, I cannot remember the name of it. And yes, I have been stalling trying to remember the name of it. I think it's called like Discordance or something like that. But it's basically the anti-gen rushing perk. Whenever multiple survivors are working on a gen, that gen is highlighted in yellow, and you get a really neat sound notification. Look at that. Look at that. No cooldown on those swings. God, I love Mad Grit. But anyway, it not only highlights it in yellow, but I've discovered from my gameplay, as you probably witnessed at the beginning of this video, that it actually gives you a little sound notification. And gets your attention, makes you turn around so you can see it. That's amazing. It truly is. It's like the anti-gen rushing perk. So now we have 3 amazing perks to counter truly toxic styles of gameplay. And I think that makes him truly great. So, final verdict, Legion Week, his perks are amazing. End of story. If you agree, please, or disagree, please leave a comment below, and we'll be more than happy to discuss it with you. Once again, this is your boy, the real Grimmy Tim. Have a good one.